Saudi Arabia. In just 50 years, it has evolved from a tribal community into a world power.
You have Saudis riding BMWs, having mobile chips, but his mind is still of someone in a tent. We didn't go through cultural development.
To most of the world, it is a society shrouded in secrecy, where women need permission just to leave their homes.
Certain roles are not fitting for a woman.
The real secret is that Saudi women are playing a vital role in the country's reform.
Women are half the society. Society has no purpose without her.
But is equality possible in the most conservative Muslim country in the world? Discovery Times takes you inside Saudi Arabia for an unprecedented look at the women of the Holy Kingdom. Saudi Arabia is a kingdom in transition, caught between tribal traditions and the 21st century. On one hand, it is the world's largest producer of oil, a modern power. On the other, it is the world's most conservative Muslim nation, mired in 13th century ideals. It is the birthplace of Islam and site of the two most sacred shrines for Muslims, Mecca and Medina. The royal family of Saud has ruled Saudi Arabia since 1933. The monarchy uses the Quran as its constitution and seeks guidance from religious clerics when passing new laws. My name is Sharmeen Obaid Chinoy. Although I am Muslim, I was raised in a progressive Islamic society in Pakistan. I have witnessed the clash between the traditions of Islam and modern life in my own country, and I wanted to see how Saudi society was adopting these changes. In recent years, the royal family has been implementing reforms, experimenting with democracy, improving the educational system, and granting more rights to women. But the religious clerics and even many Saudi citizens have been hesitant to accept these changes. For me, the changing role of women provided the most dramatic way to examine the conflict between the royal family and the religious clerics in Saudi Arabia. In order to film, I would need to wear the abaya, a black garment covering the body and part of the face, and I would have to be escorted by a male chaperone provided by the government. This is the only place in Saudi Arabia that I'm free. I feel free within the four walls of my hotel room. Otherwise, I have to walk around in this black abaya and just pretend that I'm invisible to the world. Later that evening, I experienced firsthand the restrictions placed on Saudi women. And the tomato basil soup. Thank you. Even though there are several restaurants in this hotel, we as women only have two options. Either we can order room service, or we can go down to the coffee shop, because all the other restaurants are off limits to women. The following morning, I saw evidence of change. Just 5 years ago, Saudi women were forbidden from holding manufacturing jobs. Today, although they account for only 6% of the workforce, women are working in factories all across the kingdom.
Those who think that women should only be at home or in the kitchen, that's unfortunate. It's an old point of view that's gone now. A person who thinks that way is ignorant and lacks awareness. A woman has to prove herself and show them that she is worthy and capable of having an active role.
Beyond the workplace, these women hope to have an impact closer to home. What rights do you want for your daughter that you didn't have when you were growing up?
I want her not to be like me. When we were kids, we were deprived of education because our fathers used to think that girls only needed elementary education or just to learn how to read or write and then stay at home. But now we have higher ambitions. We want the girls to go to high school, college, and higher education.
I was encouraged to see these women taking their first steps towards financial independence. But despite their new freedoms, women here are still held to the strictest laws of Islam. Legally, an unmarried adult woman is the ward of her father, a married woman is the ward of her husband, and a widowed woman is the ward of her sons. Women cannot get an identification card, obtain a passport, or be admitted to a hospital without permission from their male guardians. Women are segregated from men in public, prohibited from driving, taught in separate schools, and restricted to family sections of restaurants and female-only stores. I stopped for some coffee at Starbucks. Although it looked the same from the outside, Starbucks in Saudi Arabia was very different inside.
It's just amazing how contradictory society here is. I'm sitting in the Starbucks family section, and only women with their husbands or brothers or sons are allowed in here. The single men have a separate section. But yet, when I go to buy my coffee, I can buy it from a strange man.
After coffee, I headed to a conference organized by the Saudi government to discuss the role of women in Saudi society. Just a few years ago, a conference like this would have been unthinkable. Today, the government permits it, even though the religious clerics do not approve. The conference was segregated. The 200 or so women who attended wore their abayas and refused to appear on camera. I was, however, able to film an interview with Dr. Thuraya Ariad. Dr. Thuraya is a planning advisor to Aramco, the largest oil company in Saudi Arabia.
Now tell me about how does it feel like to be at a women's conference in Riyadh?
For me personally, I am seeing the seeds that planted 30 years ago in lectures and public awareness speeches and television programs. Finally, they are becoming the norm. It's becoming something in which you get 50 to 600, like in Jeddah, ladies attending and actually participating. It's a wonderful experience, very fulfilling. For me, it's very fulfilling.
Dr. Thuraya believed that a more active role for women was necessary for Saudi society, especially in the workplace.
Our population is one of the fastest growing in the world. The ratio between dependents, those who are still in school and not earning money, and those who are bread winners, and earners, is huge. We have 6 dependents to each earner. Now, how are you going to go on with that if you are not going to include women who also can work?
But Dr. Thuraya also knew that any changes would have to adhere to Islamic tradition.
We don't want to imitate the Western style, but we want to take from it what's good, what's positive, what can work for us. We're not going to be mutilated versions of what's happening in the Western society. I don't think either me or any of my colleagues want that.
Women like Dr. Thuraya are paving the way for the younger generation who want more of a voice in society. But this is still a country where women need a man's permission for virtually everything. And even an outside journalist had to be mindful of prevailing customs and the state's scrutiny.